Okay, let's talk about penny stocks. They might just be the most lucrative and, let's be real, the most realistic way for the average person to build serious wealth. It's this world of insane volatility where a tiny investment can, and sometimes does, turn into a life-changing reward. But it's also a world absolutely riddled with traps, with misinformation, and, of course, incredible risk. So the real question is, how do you play in this financial Wild West without losing your shirt? Well, that's what we're going to figure out today. I mean, this is the dream, right? This is what pulls you in. You buy some shares for literal pennies, and then you watch your investment just explode. A stock like this one, Disc Inc., which went from 38 cents to over $9. This chart right here, that's the siren song of penny stocks. It's why millions of people are drawn to them. It's that potential for just staggering profits, happening in weeks, not decades. This is the dream that keeps people coming back, hoping they'll be the one to catch lightning in a bottle. But then there's this, the flip side of the coin. For every single one of those amazing success stories, there are thousands that go untold. Stories of people who lost everything. And you see this sentiment everywhere, and you know what? It's there for a good reason. Because the unfortunate truth is that a lot of the negative stuff you've heard about penny stocks, it's all too real. So before we can even think about finding those big winners, we've got to understand the landscape. We need to look at the common pitfalls. You could call them the bugs in the system that are basically designed to trip you up if you're uninformed. Because in this game, making up for your losses is way, way harder than just preventing them in the first place. Let's just start with some really brutal math. It's something called the half-down principle. So imagine a stock you own is trading at $2 and bam, it drops by 50%. So now it's worth $1. It's a painful loss for sure. But how much does that stock need to gain just to get you back to even? That $1 stock has to double. It needs a 100% gain just to get back to where you started. That is the harsh reality of market math. And it's exactly why rule number 1 is always, always the same. Do not lose money. Or, at least try really, really hard not to. And the bugs don't stop there, not by a long shot. You've got the infamous pump and dump schemes, where promoters hype up some worthless stock online, get the price to shoot up, and then they sell, leaving everybody else holding the bag. Then you have dilution, where a company just keeps issuing more and more shares, which just waters down the value of your own. You'll be tempted to catch a falling knife, buying a stock that's plummeting because you think, it can't possibly go any lower. Oh, and my personal favorite, the unbelievable stories. Companies claiming they've invented an engine that runs on gravity. Look, if it sounds way too good to be true, it almost certainly is. Okay, so it's a minefield. It's volatile. It's risky. And it's full of bad actors. So clearly navigating it isn't about getting lucky with some hot tip you heard on a message board. No. It's about having a plan. It's about having a guide. And this is where we turn to a real expert, Peter Leeds, and his book, Penny Stocks for Dummies. Now, a lot of readers say that even though it's about penny stocks, really anyone can use it as a textbook for building an investing strategy from the ground up. The whole point isn't about finding a lottery ticket. It's about giving you the tools to do methodical, systematic analysis. And the origin story behind the book system? Well, it says a lot. Peter Leeds started investing when he was just 14 years old and lost all his money in 2 weeks. But instead of scaring him off for good, it became this incredibly harsh lesson. He needed a better way. That failure was the seed for what he later called Leeds analysis, a 29-point system for putting these small companies through the ringer before you ever risk a single cent. And this quote from Leeds himself really captures the whole idea. The potential for huge returns, it's absolutely real, but there's a huge if attached. It's not about luck. It's about knowledge and process. It's about knowing exactly what you're doing. So the big question becomes, what is it that you should be doing? Well, it all starts with one core idea, a single building block that becomes the foundation for a really solid strategy. Leeds calls it the 5% rule, and just understanding this one thing is your first step toward totally shifting the odds in your favor. The argument is simple, and it's pretty stark. The vast majority, like 95% of penny stock companies, are, to put it kindly, just not good. They're built on flimsy business models, they have terrible financials, or they're just outright scams. Your goal is not to try and get lucky with one of those. Your goal is to avoid that entire 95% and focus all of your energy on that tiny little sliver of high-quality companies at the very top. This chart right here really says it all. Your first job as a penny stock investor isn't actually to find winners, it's to eliminate the losers. Your entire screening process should be designed to just discard that massive 95% chunk as fast as you can so you can spend your valuable time doing a deep dive on the very few that are left. So how do you actually do that? Well, the Leeds analysis method has a really clear hierarchy. And notice this, a whopping 80% of your focus should be on the fundamentals. We're talking about the business itself. Is it financially sound? Is it run well? Only after you've established that do you layer on technical analysis to find good entry points. And then finally, what he calls third-level analysis, which is where you look at more abstract stuff like branding, their position in the industry, and just the overall market vibe. So what do these top-tier 5% companies actually look like? Well, they have specific things you can look for. They're led by strong management teams. They aren't drowning in debt. They operate in an industry that's actually growing, and they have high barriers to entry, which makes it really hard for competitors. They're either already profitable or super close to it, and they often own valuable patents or intellectual property. In other words, they are real, solid businesses that just happen to be small. You know, when you start looking for these qualities, it fundamentally changes how you see this market. It stops being a casino. It becomes a hunt for undiscovered value. And that requires a complete shift in your mindset. And honestly, that's the biggest takeaway for me. This book really made me rethink what risk actually is. The biggest risk isn't picking a stock that goes down. It's going into the market with a gambler's mentality in the first place. The goal isn't to chase some lottery ticket. It's to do the hard work, the homework required to avoid those financial bedtime horror stories that happen to so many people. I mean, the difference between these two mindsets is literally night and day. A gambler just hopes for a big win. An analyst looks for a solid company. A gambler follows the hype and buys into some unbelievable story. An analyst does their due diligence and buys based on the fundamentals. A gambler sees a stock falling and thinks it can't go any lower, while an analyst is actively managing their risk. It's the difference between being a passenger and being the pilot. And in the end, that's what it all comes down to. Success in this crazy, volatile world isn't about having a higher tolerance for risk. It's about having a higher standard for your research. It's about being willing to do the work that 95% of other traders just won't do. So the real question isn't whether you can get rich in penny stocks. It's, are you ready to do the homework?